You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet, unspoken ache that hums beneath the noise of your life. It doesn't matter who you are or where you've come from, everyone carries it. Some call it loneliness, some call it purpose, others try to name it success, or security, or belonging. But if you strip away the words, if you set aside all the roles and the masks, what remains is a simple, ancient hunger, the desire to love, and to be loved in return. It's the oldest wish in the human heart, more basic than hunger, more persistent than fear, because you can fill your stomach. You can find shelter and still feel utterly empty, still feel unseen, untouched, unknown. And yet, somehow, we've turned this most natural thing, this simple current that flows through every living being, into a labyrinth of confusion. We've made love into an equation, a bargain, a strategy. We've mistaken the appearance of love for love itself. Think back. When did you first learn that love had conditions? Maybe as a child, when affection seemed to flow more freely when you behaved, when you were quiet, when you achieved, when you pleased. Maybe later, in the early tremors of romance, when you realized that attention could vanish if you stopped performing, if you weren't interesting enough, beautiful enough, successful enough, and somewhere in those small, unnoticed moments, a seed was planted. A seed that whispered, "Love must be earned. You must deserve it." And that seed grew roots. It grew into a garden of misunderstanding, a place where we learned to trade authenticity for affection. We became actors in our own lives, performing to be loved, masking our truth just to feel safe. But what a terrible trait it is to lose yourself in exchange for being liked. You see, the moment love becomes conditional, it stops being love at all. It becomes a contract, a subtle bargain. You give me what I crave, and I'll give you what you crave. And for a while, it works. The balance holds. The accounts match. Each plays their part. But life has no interest in contracts. It moves. It changes. It undoes every deal we try to make. You grow, you fall apart, and begin again. And suddenly, the terms can no longer be met. The mask slips, the performance falters, and the illusion of love begins to dissolve. What happens then, when the person who once adored you now looks through you like a stranger? When the warmth that once held you becomes a polite distance? I've seen it in countless faces. The man who gave everything, the woman who stayed loyal through decades, both awakening one morning to realize that they were never truly seen. They were needed, but not loved. And the pain of that realization, it's not just heartbreak, it's spiritual disillusionment. It's the moment you see how the world taught you to confuse usefulness with worth. Conditional love exhausts the soul because you must always perform, always maintain the illusion that you are the version they agreed to love. It's a kind of imprisonment, a cage made of expectations and smiles. And the longer you stay there, the quieter your true self becomes. Until one day, you look in the mirror and realize you've become a ghost in your own story. That's the tragedy of earning love. It demands that you abandon the very self that was most worthy of it. But there is another way. A love that is not a bargain. A love that does not depend on how well you perform or how perfectly you meet expectations. Real love is freedom. It's the space to be exactly as you are unmasked. Imperfect alive, it's the feeling of being seen, not for what you offer, but for what you are. But here's the truth that most resist. You cannot receive unconditional love until you've learned to give it to yourself. Because a starving heart, even when it tries to give, is still bargaining in disguise. Every gesture hides a quiet plea. Please love me back. Please see me. And others can feel that. They may not know it consciously, but they feel the weight of your need, and the space between you tightens. Love cannot breathe in such air. So how do you stop? How do you feel yourself so completely lifted? You no longer need another person to prove your worth. You begin where you are. You begin by making peace with yourself. Not in the shallow way of affirmations or mantras, but in the radical act of acceptance. Accepting the parts you hide. Accepting the parts you condemn. Accepting the messy, broken, unfinished truth of who you are. Because the moment you stop demanding that you be better before you are worthy of love, something extraordinary happens. You start to see that life itself has been loving you all along. The sun rises on you each morning without checking your resume the air, fills your lungs freely, asking nothing in return. You were loved into existence before you did a single thing to earn it. The universe did not consult your grades, your looks, your performance. It simply said yes. When you see this, truly see it, a shift begins. You realize you're not a beggar standing outside the feast of life. You're already at the table. And from that fullness, you can finally give love without needing to be repaid. You stop grasping, you stop chasing, you stop measuring affection like a transaction ledger. Instead, you give because giving is your nature, like light shining from the sun. And when two people meet from this fullness, something sacred happens. There's no desperation, no fear of losing, no constant calculation. There is only presence, recognition, a meeting of rivers, each flowing from its own source. Joining not from need, but from joy. That is real love. The love that doesn't vanish when beauty fades. The love that doesn't shrink when life changes. The love that sees you at your worst and does not flinch. Because it was never based on your best. It was based on your being. And your being cannot fail. It simply is. But few find this love. Not because it hides, but because they never stop running long enough to notice it. They search for completion in others, hoping that the next person, the next success, the next thrill will finally silence the ache. But it never does, because the ache is not asking. For another person, it's asking for your own presence. Sit with yourself, not with distractions, not with noise. Just sit, breathe. Let the restlessness rise and let it fall. Beneath all of it, there is a stillness. And in that stillness, you'll find what you've been chasing all your life. You'll find love not as a feeling, but as a state of being. And once you know that love is yourself, everything changes. You stop begging for crumbs because you remember you were always part of the feast. You stop searching for someone to complete you because you were never incomplete. You stop trying to earn love because you finally are it. And from that overflow, you meet others, not as halves looking to be made whole, but as rivers meeting rivers full, alive, free. That is the love that doesn't fade. That is the love that remains when all stories fall away. And in the quiet, after all the searching, you finally hear it, the truth that's been whispering beneath your every heartbeat. You were never unloved. You were never alone. You were always held by something so vast, so gentle, and so utterly unconditional that you could not see it because you were looking for something smaller. Real love cannot be grasped. It can only be surrendered to. And when you surrender, you discover you are it. You always were, and you always will be.